Yeah, I've got notes. I started a live stream. That's right. I tweet myself, apparently. Source Matt Cast on Twitter. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Source Material. My name is Jesse Starcher, and this evening we have come together here to record ourselves and ourselves. You just missed half hour of scheduling by Mark Radulich. Mark Radulich, are we ready to talk some comics now, as in like an actual comic book?
Would it make more sense to do Planet Savage on the 11th before we review
scheduling.
Ocean's 8 or before we review Jurassic World?
I dropped out for a second and I come back to you scheduling. And it is a thing of nightmares.
I'm just wondering if it makes better sense on the week that we're doing Jurassic World.
I'll tell you what doesn't make sense is that sentence you just
I would pay money for like a screenplay of a Groundhog Day-esque movie where Ronnie Adams gets up every day and has to start hearing Mark Radulich schedule something every day.
We need a T-shirt. It's just a picture of a calendar, and on it says "Fear the Schedule" on the back. Radulich and Broadcasting.
Fear the Schedule. That's perfect.
Or it just says, "Please stop." For the love of God, stop.
Ronnie Adams.
That's a Ronnie Adams T-shirt. Please stop.
Ronnie Adams. I think we're done scheduling. I think that it's time to discuss some comics. Are you ready, sir?
Well, I've been ready for 45 minutes.
I doubt that.
You knuckleheads won't stop scheduling.
I'm done now. God damn it.
Hey.
So, okay. Tonight, we're actually going to be covering a book that is quite representative of the name Source Material. This podcast and what we've usually tried to do here recently is we try to tie in these comics that may have influenced film. Well, if you have ever heard of the film 300, this is the book that film was based off of. And when it comes to film representation of what's happened in a comic, a lot of times what you're going to hear from I'm not degrading anybody when I say the nerd community, but I guess I should say the passionate comic book community.
Nerds.
It's
I am one. I'm proud.
They didn't stay true to the source material. Okay,
Nerds.
That's one of the many things.
Nerds. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You hear that a lot. Well, there are few comic book movies that have taken what we've seen in the book and almost directly translated it to the screen. The Watchmen was, in my opinion, a pretty faithful representation of what we got in the book. There were some changes, but it had that feel for me. And we discussed that. You can go back in the archives. As a matter of fact, I don't think we put that on trial. Did we, Mark? That wasn't on trial. That was that must have been
that was, oh God, what was the author's name? That we did a whole special month dedicated to him.
Okay. All right. That was Alan Moore. Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, we did an Alan Moore month where we did podcasts where we, in the same podcast, compared the comic to the movie.
Okay. So tonight we have another great representation of a comic book going to a film. And we're discussing the comic book here, which is Frank Miller's 300. Now, here's the thing. I have not had the chance to see the film. And Mark, give us an idea as to why we chose this book, which I kind of gave it away just now. But we chose this book because you're going to be covering the film here this week, right?
Let's go back to 2 years ago.
Oh, dear God.
You'll get in the Wayback Machine with me to 2 years ago.
Oh, machine.
We did Alan Moore month, and we all enjoyed it. And we thought, what can we do next year in 2017? And I had planned to do in the month of September, because there's usually not a lot of good movies in the month of September. We were going to do Frank Miller month. And I ended up kind of going over what we were going to do for Frank Miller month. And it just trying to squeeze. We were going to do like Sin City and all of that. And it became a little overwhelming, at least for me, to try to figure out how to get all the Sin City books into one podcast and the movie. And I thought we're not really doing either justice by trying to squeeze all of this content into one podcast. And then the rest of what we're going to do for Frank Miller month just didn't seem fun to me. So I was like, all right, let's just not do this. But I still want to do 300 because I love the movie. And I think it would be fun to read the comic because I'd never read it before. And that became the genesis of doing this. So we just scrapped Frank Miller month. We moved 300, reviewing 300 to 2018, and we decided we were going to put it on trial. And since we were putting it on trial, we thought, well, in the same week, then we'll review the comic.
Okay.
Can we talk now about what I would like to schedule for the last 6 months of
Mark? We'll drop Florida. I don't want.
The title 300. That's how many dates Mark likes to schedule.
20 years Mark is scheduled.
I'm a very organized person.
Indeed. Google Calendar. I mean, come on. They
kicked him out.
Like,
no.
There's a little notification that pops up on his phone. Sir, you have not scheduled at least 5 things today. Are you okay? Do you feel all right? Google.
Speaking of scheduling,
no,
I'm buying a ticket to Sabaton and Creator, and I'm going by myself.
Oh, you couldn't talk to the women, any of the women, to go with you, huh?
No, and at this point, I'm starting to sound like a really creepy guy. So I'm like, all right, I'm letting this go.
Dang it. Well, that's going to be an awesome show. I was just thinking about that last night when we were talking about it. It's going to be great.
You should come down for it.
I wish I could. I honestly wish I could, because that'd be a blast. It would be a blast.
Bring your whole family. Make a Disney trip out of it, and then just like scale out one night, like on Saturday, March 10th, and come with me to Janice Landing. No, I'm not saying bring them to Janice Landing. They'd hate it. But
I don't even want to talk about the financial impact that would have upon myself, not let alone the rest of my family. And
well, every family deserves a trip to Disney.
Sure. 300. 300. So, okay.
In case you didn't realize, he's saying, shut up, Mark.
300.
Shut your face, Rattledge.
Now, so we've discussed why we're doing the book tonight. So our next thing, I guess, is to kind of give you an idea of the background of this comic, who made it, and when it came out. Now, this was a Frank Miller wrote and drew, wrote the story, laid down the pencils, and we got paints by Lynn Varley, which, just clicking on the name here on the wiki, comic book colorist, Eisner Award-winning colorist, notable for her collaborations with her former husband, Frank Miller, whom she divorced in 2005. Well, that's something I learned right there.
That was a sad ending.
It was. She provided coloring for Miller's Ronin, 1984, which I've heard is very good. I think that comes highly recommended by Benjamin J. Cologne. He said to check that out. And Dark Knight Strikes Again. Her and Frank Miller apparently go hand in hand, literally and figuratively, within the last good bit of comic book history. So, okay, so there you go. There's your creative team behind this. This came out in 1998. And one of the other things I want to point out here is this book actually came out in a different format. And when I say that, it was actually, I want to say very similar to, well, they say it's landscape format. That's the best way. But it's very much like widescreen. When you look at the book, Mark, do you actually have a physical copy of it there?
I do have a physical copy of it.
And are all the pages sideways landscape format, or is it?
Yes, it is. It is like a coffee table book.
Have you ever seen any other comic books like that before?
No, it really made it a nice little treasure to have.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I mean, there's been some books that have done landscape format. I can remember an issue, I think it was of X-Force and Spider-Man or something like that, where they did, it was all double page spreads and sideways, which is pretty interesting.
Was that the one with Juggernaut?
It's been a while since I read it.
I know it came out on Juggernaut. Yeah,
it was Liefeld art. I do recall that for sure.
There's lots of diamond feet.
Yes, indeed. But yeah, it's an interesting format. This came out in '98. I mean, I don't think that was unheard of back then, but you just didn't see it a lot. Kind of a rarity. So let's go ahead. We'll get into the synopsis of this book. Now, this is based upon real events that's happened in history. And I'm going to read straight from the wiki here, and I'm going to synopsis this whole thing. And then what we'll do is we'll kind of get into the characters, a little bit about the characters, and maybe give our pros and cons of the book. Real short, sweet episode. All right, so here's the synopsis. In 480 BC, King Leonidas of Sparta gathers 300 of his best men to fight the upcoming Persian invasion. In what is likely a suicide mission, they and their allies plan to stop King Xerxes' invasion of Greece at the narrow cliffs of the Hot Gates, which is Thermopylae, is how I'm going to pronounce it. Apparently, that's the name, the actual name of the place they were at. The terrain prevents the Greeks from being overwhelmed by Xerxes' superior numbers, a military tactic usually called defeat in detail. Before the battle starts, Ephialtes, a deformed Spartan, begs Leonidas to let him fight, but is rejected due to his hunchbacked form, which prevents him from lifting his shield high enough to be of use for the phalanx. Ephialtes becomes so desperate by Leonidas's refusal that he throws himself off of a cliff, which was a surprise to me in the book, where I'm just like, oh, that guy's dead. That's unfortunate. But lo and behold, the Spartans and their allies successfully hold off the Persians for 2 days and nights. During a break in the fighting, Xerxes meets with Leonidas and offers wealth and power in exchange for his surrender. Leonidas declines, and the battle continues. Meanwhile, Ephialtes awakes from his failed suicide attempt and decides to betray the Greeks by telling the Persians about the existence of a small pass that allows Xerxes to attack them from behind. Learning of the Persian maneuvers, the Greeks realize their position is now indefensible. But the Spartans and a few others refuse to retreat. Before engaging the Persians for the last time, Leonidas orders one Spartan, Delios, or was that the stumble guy? Was that they kept calling him Stumblios? Or was that some other dude? I can't remember.
I'm 90% sure that's right.
Okay. All right. Leonidas orders one Spartan, Delios, to return home so that oh, no. Incorrect. That's coming up. Okay. He tells Delios, look, you need to go home. And so that at least somebody can survive to tell the story of what's about to happen here. Now, on the third day, Xerxes has the Spartans surrounded. Their remaining allies already dead, the Thespians. He gives Leonidas one final chance to surrender and kneel to him. After some hesitation, Leonidas finally complies and throws down his arms and kneels. This, however, is a trick by Leonidas and signals Stelios, there we go, a loyal Spartan soldier, to jump from his back and kill a general. That's the guy they kept calling Stumblios. But anyway, Stelios jumps from Leonidas's back and kills a general. The Spartans then engage in this huge battle. Leonidas throws his spear at Xerxes, intending to make the god king bleed, and succeeds. The Spartans are killed to the last man by a storm of arrows. The story then shifts about a year later and ends as now Captain Delios relates the heroic sacrifice of Leonidas and his Spartan comrades to his troops before the historic battle of Plataea. Something. Plata.
Tomato.
Perry the Platypus.
Oh, geez.
So anyway, yes. So there you go. That is 300 in a nutshell. It's a fairly simple story. I mean, we have this group of 300 Spartans, and their whole job is to just head off it is a massive army that is coming to conquer their land. and they are completely outnumbered. So I guess let's go ahead and we'll get into our characters here and see what you guys, I mean, if you guys have anything to say about them, great. If not, we'll move on. But let's talk about Leonidas. Mark, I mean, what do you think of the character of Leonidas here?
Well, I mean, he's really the star of our show, and he's great. You know, my favorite part of this book is when he confronts Xerxes, and I think it was also one of my favorite parts of the movie. And Xerxes is like, but I am a benevolent god. All you have to do is kneel, and I will give you everything you desire. You want freedom, you'll have freedom. We will let the country of Greece will be yours to control. You just have to acknowledge that I'm God. And Leonidas really like just rejects everything about this guy. He's like, no, we will not live underfoot. We will not take any deal that in any way puts Greece in the purview of Persia. And you know, and the thing of it is that he's facing death. They're never gonna beat that army. It's huge.
It is, dude. It's unreal because I mean they've got I don't know how many tens of thousands of people, and this is not even half 1,000 of their own soldiers to try and face off all of these warriors that are coming their way. I mean, you know, you're not coming out of there. The likelihood of you leaving is probably less than nil. It's a suicide mission, but you have to do this and make a statement.
Right. But, and that's the thing is like, I think going into this, he knows we're never going to get out of this alive, but that's not the point. The point is to inspire the rest of Greece to come together and become the nation that it's destined to become and not live underfoot of the Persians. And they're not ready to make that leap until the 300 sacrifice themselves in glorious battle. And that's what makes him such a compelling character. He really does make like the ultimate sacrifice for what he believes to be the greater good and what you could argue is the greater good. I mean, it's not like, you know, Greece is low on contributions to the world. They kind of invented civilization, as they say, and ass fucking.
What?
That's from The Wire. That's from The Wire.
Of course it is. I mean, Ronnie, why haven't you watched The Wire? Well,
Exhibit A.
I don't understand. Anyway, no, Leonidas, as portrayed in this graphic novel and subsequently in the movie, is really one of the great heroes of literature, fictional literature, in my opinion.
Fictional? This isn't fictional. Well, this isn't fictional literature.
It's a fictional take on real events.
Okay.
Yeah.
They didn't take on an army of tens of thousands of people or however many it was and whittle them down like they did, but it was a great battle, and it was, they did do a lot of things, great, they did fight a good fight in it, but it wasn't as dramatic as you would think.
Okay. Well, I like I said, I'm learning stuff here. I actually thought this was a representation of what actually happened. So it wasn't actually 300 versus
I think there were around 300 Spartans, but like I said, it wasn't as dramatic as they made it out to be in the story or in the movie or anything like that. It was definitely against all odds, and they found that out, and they did inspire, kind of a revolution, to fight against, basically
tyranny,
I guess tyranny, slavery, whatever else you want to call it. So it was, there were many liberties taken with the story, but names and faces, names and have been changed to protect the innocent, kind of thing.
Liberties have been taken.
Liberties have been taken, and liberally.
All right, I got you. Well, I did not know that that was the case. I thought this was actually a fair. Now I know that they dive into the ridiculous background of King Leonidas, which I don't, that certainly felt out of place, or at least not likely that this kid was. Then again, you never know what it was like back then. But if I remember right, he was about to die or about to get killed by a wolf.
Yeah, I wasn't suggesting there wasn't a King Leonidas. I'm saying
I got you.
Yeah.
I just to be clear about that.
I just didn't know. I thought that this battle.
Well, Mark said there wasn't a King Leonidas.
I didn't know that this battle was. I thought this was actually, a faithful representation of what happened. But if this was more dramatic or more exaggerated, that was one of the words that I saw. Then I could understand that. Clearly, we're here to tell a good story. That's what comics is all about.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just like anytime you have Hollywood, or if you have some, an artist, we'll just say an artist taking a story that happened, that really happened, they're going to take some liberties with it. I mean, you look at, look at all the Bible, movies based on the Bible. There was some definite liberties taken in some of those. Noah, for instance, that was just a terrible movie. That's a horrible example. But you think, when there's history can be boring. I love history. I love reading about World War II. I love reading about the Vietnam War, biblical history, just any kind of history. Right now, one of the games I'm playing is actually Assassin's Creed Origins, and it's got me, looking into Egyptian history, and all that. So it's to a certain group of people, history is going to be amazing. To the public, it's not going to be as awesome as I think it is. So there's going to be some liberties taken, some extra drama and action and things added in to quench that thirst we have for high drama and action and everything.
Yeah. Well, here I've followed the link from the wiki to the Battle of Thermopylae. According to this, is how
Thermopylae.
Now, Mark, I won't sit here and read to you the translation that Wikipedia has, because it is indirect. It is directly saying it's Thermopylae, but sir, I'll call it Thermopylae.
Thermopylae.
Sure. Thermopylae.
Oh my gosh.
Here
Mark.
we go. It's Carolina, by the way, not Carolina.
No, it's
Greek force.
No, it's actually Carolina. They've said it on the TV.
I know, dang it.
Sweet Carolina, ba ba ba.
Because I live in North Carolina.
Have you ever glowed so good, so good?
Here's the thing: there is nothing that changes the pronunciation of an I to the E sound, such as a K at the beginning. That's BS. You don't say it's Carolina and then just because it's got a K at the beginning. Now we're going to call it Carolina. Have you met people
and how they name their children anymore?
All right, the Battle of Thermopylae. Okay.
AIMEE. Amy.
Here's the paragraph. Here's a little history lesson. Okay.
My favorite is Famali. You know what Famali is?
No.
No, it's female.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, Lord.
Famali.
And I know people who named their child, or thought the hospital named their child Famali, and just went with it.
Well, I mean, we live in the day of an age where people name their children chlamydia because they think it's a pretty word.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Listen to this. Here's the.
I want to talk about this some more.
I'm reading one paragraph, okay? That's all. It says a Greek force of approximately 7,000 men marched north to block the pass in the middle of 480 BC. So we're talking about the hot gates here.
Yeah.
The Persian, those hot gates, those hot gates,
those hot gates.
The Persian.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, you hot gate, you.
I just feel dirty now.
I want to put my 300 soldiers right in between them hot gates of yours.
You need to stop it. Sorry, I promise. For the listeners, I promised Jesse and Mark I would sing everything like it was 80s hair metal.
No.
Why not?
The Persian army, alleged by the ancient
Caroline.
Shut up, Mark!
Just want one paragraph. That's all it is. Price 7 cents. And then we'll get back to the comic.
Read your paragraph. Yeah.
The Persian army, alleged by the ancient sources to have numbered over 1
Those crazy
million.
Persians.
Oh, I'm going to kill you. 1 million. 1 million.
I feel like I'm responsible for this. I feel like I broke Ronnie, and now he's acting like an asshole like I am.
You broke me a long time ago. I've just been fighting it.
It's bad. It's very bad. All right. So it's a Persian army alleged by the ancient sources to have numbered over 1 million, but today considered to have been much smaller. Various figures have been given by scholars ranging between 100,000 to 150,000. Arrived at the pass in late August, early September. The vastly outnumbered Greeks held off the Persians for 7 days, including 3 of battle, before the rear guard was annihilated in one of history's most famous last stands. During 2 full days of battle, the small force, led by Leonidas, blocked the only road by which the massive Persian army could pass. After the second day, a local resident named Ephialtes, I pronounced it totally different earlier. Ephialtes.
Crazy Roman name.
I feel you. Is that his name?
Greek name.
Ephialtes.
I feel you.
Ephialtes.
I felt you up.
Ephialtes betrayed the Greeks by revealing that small path
totally
led behind the
you,
Greek
Jesse.
lines. Leonidas, aware that his force was being outflanked, dismissed the bulk of the Greek army and remained to guard the retreat with 300 Spartans, 700 Thespians, and 400 Thebans fighting to the death. Okay, there we go. So that is history according to Wiki right there.
Yeah, see?
Sure. Yeah. See, sing it to me, Ronnie Adams. All right.
I don't feel like it now.
Good.
You broke
That's
my
very
heart.
good. That's very good. Let's keep it that way.
Shut up, Jesse.
All right.
I have an awesome idea for January of 2019.
Of course you do. You need to stop.
I'm not saying
You
shit.
have a problem. Yeah.
I had an idea. I'm going to keep it to myself for now.
Please. Let's continue on with the book. And let's talk about. Let's talk.
Jesse, I feel so bad for you.
Dude, all I want to do. All I want for
Zoom,
Christmas
zoom,
is to finish this. Zoom,
All
zoom,
I
zoom.
want to do is have some fun. I got a feeling
At least I'm
not
not that
the
bad.
only one.
Ronnie Adams, anything
Yes,
else you'd like to say about King Leonidas as portrayed in the book 300?
No, I mean, I agree wholeheartedly with, you won't catch me saying this again. I agree wholeheartedly with, with Mark. No, I'm sorry, Mark. But, I mean, he is a great hero. I mean, you know, he stood to the death. He went down with the ship. He commanded his army to the end. And, you know, that's something that, you know, as a man, you know, you kind of dream of that, you know, of
Being the hero.
being the hero.
Yeah.
Well, you know, no matter what the cost, personal cost, whatever. And so that's who he was. I mean, he was the hero of the day, of the century, of whatever. I mean, my goodness, just short, you know, stories that were written down by hand have been passed through the years. You know, we've got movies and comic books and I'm sure there's literature out there about him. So he is, for all intents and purposes, immortal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're still talking about it to this day. You know,
Yeah.
and how long ago was that? You know, what year? You know, according to Wikipedia, what year was that?
Yeah, that was 480 BC. I mean,
Exactly, before Christ, 400,
Yeah.
you know, almost 500 years before the birth of Christ. So we've got, you know, it's one of those things where, like, man, are people going to be talking about me 500 years from now?
Dude, that's a legend. I mean,
well,
it literally is a legend. Okay.
2,500 years, so 480 BC, and then you go to 0 AD, and then you go up, we're in 2018 now.
Yeah.
So 2,500 years, people are still talking about this man. He's a legend. He's immortal.
Exactly. I think it was interesting to see a little bit of the backstory, like I alluded to earlier, on King Leonidas, of as a kid, and all these tales that have been told of how he, the warrior that he came to be. So I think that was kind of neat, as portrayed in the comic book here. I enjoyed the way that they. I enjoyed the way they portrayed him, as this.
And the movie was like a 2-story tall wolf too. I mean, it was crazy big.
Well, I was going to say he looks pretty huge compared to the kid when that story's being told. I also want to go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I just don't have the book in front of me, so I don't know what it was, what it looked like there.
Well, also, I think the important thing that they
like it really didn't look all that different.
Yeah. It was huge compared to the kid. I mean, obviously, if this kid was going to fight, some wolf that was coming at him, as a younger kid, it's anything. The wolf's going to look huge to you, So anyway, I wanted to talk about just real quick and mention about he was a great leader, and he had a little bit of compassion as well. And they made sure to kind of put that out there. Frank Miller made sure to kind of show that in some instances, I mean, all this great battle that's about to happen, and he knows what's going to happen. He's rather firm with most of the people that are, serving under him in the army, but you can see that there's that bit of compassion like he had with I want to call him Stelios. Hold on, make sure I got that right. Yeah, with Stelios, where he seems to be. I won't want to call him the runt of the litter, but they kind of follow his progress through the army, or their march or whatever. And Stelios is kind of picked on. He falls down, and like I said, they're calling him nicknamed Stumblios, and King Leonidas sees in him a loyal person, a loyal warrior. Hence, like we mentioned in the synopsis, where he's the one that kind of enacts that war that comes out. I mean, he's the one that kills the general. But yeah, a couple times where King Leonidas sees Stelios and makes sure that all the other Spartans, even though they are continually disrespected, they need to have some respect for Stelios and what he's doing with them. So anyway, and that was one thing I took away from it. We got this great king, but he can be compassionate when need be. And he did that. So, okay, next character. I mean, it's kind of a one-note character, but if you guys have anything to say about them, great. Mark, you got anything to say about Xerxes, our leader of this huge army that's coming after the Spartans?
The best villains are the ones that think they're in the right. And, he has the sort of, divine right thing going on where he believes he is the master of the universe. And, he's a fun villain character. He was just like, look, it is our destiny to conquer Europe. We need Greece to be a part of that. I'm giving you an opportunity to continue to be the warlord of Greece. I'm giving you riches. He says this. He does the same thing with the Hunchback. It's like, I'll give you join me and get me to where I need to be, and I'll give you everything you ever wanted. He's kind of a fun character that way.
The only crime that I could see that he was doing, I mean, he wasn't a real despot of a leader. He just, I think, believed himself a god. And many times he kept saying, despot, though. Okay, well, hold on. Okay. Throughout the book, he continues to say, hey, I'm benevolent. I'll give you what you want. All you got to do is kneel. All you got to serve me. And that's the one crime that he does. and throughout this whole book is he's asking the other people to give up their freedom and serve him and do his bidding. That's it. I mean,
Like-
they're really, and of course, you know,
Like you do.
bringing the millions to kill this Persian army and conquer people. But it's not like I can't remember, and I could be wrong. You guys, Mark, you have the book in front of you, but is there any point where they demonize this guy other than the fact that he's just a ruler that's kind of marching his way across the I guess Europe? I mean, well, when they said that,
I mean,
go ahead.
I mean, a little bit at the beginning of the book where they're just like, no, you know, to march against the Persian army is to bring death to us all. You know, it's better to just sort of let them in and, you know, let's see if we can find, you know, a peace with them somehow. You know, happiness and slavery, that sort of thing.
I think there is a part in there where he does, or maybe it's the Persian scout that says it, but he's like, do you understand what we're going to do to your women and your children after you guys die? So I guess that kind of puts him in an evil light there. But go ahead.
But I mean, is it, I think looking at it from the eyes of 21st century men who send dick pics, you know,
Not me.
Yeah, you can count me on that one too.
Yeah, I think we can all agree, isn't it awfully nice to have a penis?
What?
You've seen Monty Python, you know that.
Yeah,
shit,
but
Ronnie.
you do these things just to get that reaction out of me.
Oh man,
I think we all know the answer.
I cannot wait till Ronnie's on a live show at some point, and that happens to be played on the switchboard, just in the middle of like Ronnie Adam talking. Whoops.
Well, and now you know I'll never be on a live show.
Yeah, that's a lie. That's an absolute lie. You're gonna be on Runaways
TV
and
party tonight, baby.
yeah, TV party nights. I got you all set up, baby doll.
Oh.
All right, Ronnie. Mark, are you done there? I didn't want to cut you off.
No, well,
Cut him off.
I never actually made my point because I was too busy talking about peni. But but
Imagine that.
Is that really,
I know.
Is that really the plural for penis?
Thermopylae.
Shut up.
Thermopylae.
Get on with it.
Anywho, I think through the eyes of 21st century people, sure, anyone that's marching millions of people to their death across the plains, you know, for war and profit would be seen as evil. But I think in days of antiquity, that's what you did. You know, I don't. You built up your civilization, and in order to feed your people, you conquered more land. You conquered more land, and you built a bigger civilization. And in many ways, you incorporated the places that you conquered into your greater civilization, and you made gains from it. Rome would not be the Rome we all know and love today without a lot of the territory that they conquered outside of Rome.
Mm-hmm.
Those places contributed to Roman culture. So, you know, is Xerxes terrible by, you know, the culture of that era? Maybe not. I think it's very easy to cast him in that light, sitting in our, you know, 21st century houses, you know, with 21st century ideals. Okay.
Ronnie, I know I cut you off there
That's
earlier.
right.
Do you remember the point you were going to try and make before you started singing? All right.
What were we talking about?
Well, I interrupted you about Xerxes.
Is Xerxes a bad guy?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I get what you're saying. Absolutely. You know, that's what you did back then. You know,
you kind of said something like about I mentioned that he was a despot, and you were like, well, he is. Was there something you wanted to piggyback off that?
I mean, he made people carry him. He called himself a god.
Okay.
You know,
Point taken.
He viewed himself as divine and above all the people that he quote unquote ruled over. So really, honestly, their lives were forfeit. No matter what, it didn't matter. I'm going to take what I want. It's like me walking in your house and you saying, hey, don't take that because it's my kids. Well, I'll make you a deal. I'm going to take it and, you can go along with it. And, I'm going to take this gaming system and you can go along with it and just, realize it's for the better. And you can come over to the house and play it all you want, when I allow you to, that is. But if you tell me no, I'm just going to kick the crap out of you and take it and make your kid cry. It's a ridiculous example, but it's kind of the same thing. I'm going to take what I want, no matter what.
Is it?
That's what he laid down for him. We're going to take your land no matter what, so you can be happy about it, or we're going to rape and pillage our way through your land. Take it anyway, and you're going to be dead.
Mark?
I don't know. I don't know if I see it that way, but
okay. I thought you were getting ready to say something there. I didn't want you. I didn't want you to miss out.
No, I just also don't feel the need to argue this point any further.
Okay, I did want to bring up.
Fine.
That's the way we end it, Ronnie Adams. I did want to bring up the panel. I'm sharing it right now on screen. I don't know if you guys have your screens up in front of you, but I did notice when Xerxes, just like you were talking about, I forgot all about him being carried around because that really stuck out when he
used people as steps.
King Leonidas stands there, and there are, I don't know how many people have to carry this huge, it's not just a throne, it's freaking stairs and like 4 statues. It's insane.
It's his throne room.
Yeah, and it's
not just him sitting on a chair and them carrying him like you see in movies and stuff like that. It's an entire room that they have that, he has multiple people carrying around just for his comfort.
That's crazy.
Is it?
Who are you?
Well, what you have,
Mark, do you have people carrying you around your work? And
I don't believe I'm a god. I'm just the Jew. We're the chosen people, but I never said we were God.
I don't know how to argue that.
Do not.
Well, that's my point. Like, if you believe come on, man. Live the gimmick. If you believe yourself to be a god, then why wouldn't you demand your followers carry you around in the throne?
Mark, if I came up to you and said, you're going to be one of my people that carry me around because I believe that I am a god, what would you say to me?
I would say to you, Randy Macho Man Savage.
Oh, yeah.
Was he not carried around by lesser wrestlers because he was King Macho Man? I believe he was.
That's wrestling.
Not at all.
He didn't say you're going to carry me around, but if you don't, I'm going to. No, that's ridiculous.
No, it's the exact same thing.
No, it's not.
He was the king, and these other wrestlers were less than, and so they carried him to the ring because he was godly.
Oh my gosh! No, you can't compare wrestling to somebody who actually thinks that they are a god.
We can.
No, you can't.
Yes, you can.
You can because you did, but it's not correct.
No, it is correct.
Shut up, Mark!
In both cases, why are we arguing this? But in both cases, you have somebody who is clearly a human being, just a regular Joe, who is saying, no, I'm better than all of you. I'm better than all of you, and I can prove it, and I can back up that proof. And he does. Clearly, look, millions of people, whether by the whip or by choice, were following him, and at any given time, all of those people could have kind of looked at each other and said, "Why are we doing this?" and dumped him on his ass over tea kettle on his dome piece. Okay, and they didn't. They carried him the whole way. Clearly, they believed. Just like all those jobbers believed that King Macho Man was in fact
they
the
believed
king.
in a paycheck.
Either way, paycheck.
No, that's not true.
I believe in the power of money. Being a Jew.
Oh wow.
We didn't need to go there.
No.
I mean, there was no reason.
I mean, do we need to go to a lot of places at Mark, Texas? No.
Strap in.
It's like the cab ride from hell, isn't it?
Oh wow.
Oh my god, and I'm screaming the whole way. But I mean,
Everything I say is right.
Okay.
No.
I think
no, sir.
The main point of the difference, I should say, between Xerxes and King Leonidas is that fight for freedom.
One rules with
them all.
I don't want to say I don't want to say compassion, but one rules because he's a good man, and the other one rules out of fear. And
really? I think the Persians would disagree with you.
I see
Mark,
where you're coming from.
You just say things to make me angry.
I see where you're coming from, but I
Who do you agree with, Mark?
No, I swear, I see where both of you are coming from.
No,
okay.
Did you say you were Swiss?
Yeah,
Swiss.
I'm Swiss. I am a cheese.
I am rather neutral here. No, I see where both of you guys are coming from. We'll move on. We'll strap in our we'll just go ahead and move on here.
No, I want to argue.
No more. Let me
argue.
No way. I don't want to hear that.
Now
anymore.
Who's disrupting the podcast?
You are.
Ronnie Adams.
I am not.
Okay. All right. So we talked about Leonidas, Xerxes, the villain of the piece.
Or the hero.
I knew it.
Xerxes is. Oh my!
Let's talk about
the crap out of you.
Let's talk about the plight of the Spartans. Okay, the life of a Spartan warrior, which they kind of touch on here in the book. I mean, Mark,
do they really have a plight?
What I can see this. I can see that coming. Where they talk about there's a few panels, a couple pages talking about these warriors in training. I mean, bred to be a warrior practically if you're a Spartan.
Hey, Jesse, remember when you thought this was going to be a short episode?
I did.
And then Mark started
now here's the thing.
Scheduling everything.
When it comes to editing, this will be a damn short episode. That's for damn sure. Because when I cut out all the unnecessary stuff, that will definitely.
Sir, everything we do in this show is necessary.
Everything. The 300
Spartans. Caroline.
Except for that. That's awful.
All right. What do you think about the Spartans and the way that they're? Do you have any opinions on how they're raised? They're becoming a warrior. No. Okay.
Nope. That was the culture of that area. There's something to be said for a warrior culture. Breeding people up, from birth to be a certain thing. And it's not like it was an abandoned concept. I mean, I remember reading about the Soviet Union and, deciding who was going to be what at birth.
Wow.
So yeah, that's how the Soviet Union was.
No kidding.
So, and other cultures have done similar things where, where again, at birth, certain things are decided for you, and that's just the way it is. Mm-hmm. So, and again, there's value in raising boys to be soldiers, when as they become adult men, especially when you're a small nation fending off all comers from all sides, and obviously to a degree it works. These were fierce fighters, and the other thing about that is it's important to remember. Fighting for something fighting for something gives you strength. If you're just sort of drafted into an army and told go fight that way, you're not going to be nearly as effective for those who believe in a cause, believe in their people, etc. And I think that's what ultimately, is a big part of the story of the 300. Is it wasn't that they weren't just fighting for land. They were fighting because they were Spartans, and this was Spartan. This was Spartan land. This is what they believed in. This was in their blood. There's a lot to be said for that. The American military is I think one of the few really on Earth that they're not just fighting in an army, they're fighting in the American army. You hear a lot of soldiers talk about that, like that they, and when they feel like they don't have a reason to fight, how negatively it affects them. You look at a lot of the guys that fought in the last couple of modern wars where they really felt like there was something to be fighting for, versus a lot of the people that went to Vietnam where they had no fucking clue what they were fighting for, and it kind of all goes into the ditch. It's a very oversimplified way of looking at it, but it goes back to the idea of, if it's not enough to just be a soldier, and be part of an army. You have to believe in what it is you're fighting for.
To them, it wasn't. They automatically believed because it was their life. It wasn't. I remember taking a test in high school, and it was supposed to tell me what I was good at and what I was supposed to be when I grew up. And I don't even remember what it said. Probably a janitor or something. Not that there's anything wrong with the custodial arts.
Was it podcast host?
No. You can tell that by the way I host podcasts. But unorganized. And it kind of puts me in the mind of that, but because they didn't have a choice. No matter what that test said, I knew I still had a choice of what I went to school for, what I was passionate about, and I didn't have to listen to that. They had no choice. When they were born, if they were strong enough, if they weren't, quote unquote, the run of the litter, a spear and a sword were shoved in their hand and they were trained at birth. And it was a culture, it was a life. There was no questions asked. And it wasn't just because they were all about bloodshed or anything like that. It was who they were. And when you talk to Mark, or when Mark was talking about, the American military, when you're a soldier, a lot of times, you have that mindset of, this is who I am. This is my family. These are my brothers in arms. So there's really something to, like you said, there's something to be said about that, because they believed, they knew, and they lived being a warrior, being a fighter, being willing to give up their life to defend what they had and the people that, in their family that they loved.
Let me kind of segue into our next character and our final character that we'll talk about, and then we'll move on to our cons and pros here. One part of the Spartan culture was getting rid of their defected at birth. I've got the page up here right now where they talk about how, if you had some kind of deformity or something, you're just chucked off a cliff. I mean, it's
bad. Now, granted, there was some flaws in the way they thought too.
But that leads us to the traitor of the story. And let me see if I can pronounce his name right again. Epheltes. There we go.
You failed us?
Yes. I failed you all up. And Epheltes. So, so Epheltes here, he's the deformed, I've got a great picture of him here. He's the deformed Spartan who wants to serve under King Leonidas. And he was allowed to live because I think his father struck some kind of a deal where he would leave the land, become a farmer or something like that. Or maybe he took him out of secrecy and hid him. But regardless, all that Epheltes wants to do is serve under King Leonidas and be a warrior. But because of his physical attributes and his deformity, I mean, this right here is chapter 3, Glory. And he is definitely...
He ain't pretty.
He's not pretty. And he's a hunchback,
his helmet doesn't fit right.
It's pretty grotesque.
Yeah.
And all he wants to do is serve. And King Leonidas is like, look, you cannot do it. There's no way you can raise your sword above he actually has him do that. Raise your sword up so and so high. And because
raise your hand.
Raise your shield, I think is what it is. But because he can't do that,
he can't be a part of the phalanx.
Exactly.
So,
there's a weak spot. He becomes the weak spot. So he's like, sorry, we can't use you. And he decides to go and kill himself. So Mark, I guess like you do. I'll start with you. I mean, do you blame Ephialtes here for what he did by turning on the Spartans?
No, not at all. What did he have to lose, or what did he have to lose by turning on the Spartans? He had already been rejected from the society. The one thing that would have given his life any bit of meaning was taken from him. Might as well go, see what he can get from the other side. Okay. Who at the end of the day, you have to look out for yourself. Especially when your entire universe has rejected you, who wouldn't take that deal? He had nothing to lose. It was like, here, everything you ever wanted in life, just show us where the back door is to fuck these people, and we'll go fuck them in the back door.
God's name, what's wrong with you?
You did say earlier a lot of fucking in the butt, and by golly, that's what happened.
Jesse, do not encourage him.
Oh, Ronnie, them hot gates, them hot gates penetrating.
Those hot gates.
Shut up.
All right, Ronnie. Ronnie, do you agree with Mark here in regards?
What did I say that was wrong?
Now, what do you agree? Do you feel that? Do you blame Ephialtes here?
Yes, I don't think anything you said was wrong. I believe that people really, feel like that, and in some cases, for some people that may be true. But if he really wanted to be a part of this brotherhood, if he really loved who he was, granted, yes, he was rejected, and yes, he felt rejected. And would I do the same thing? I would like to say no, but if he really wanted to, what's the word I'm looking for? If he wanted to prove himself to King Leonidas, he would never taken that deal, and he would have proven himself. I'm not done. Shut up. He could have gone back and told King Leonidas and said, "Hey, this is what they're trying to get. They're trying to get me to spill the beans." And spill the beans. What am I, like 90?
Spill the beans.
They're trying to get me to rat you out, and he could. There's a million other things that he could have done for the army and been a part of it.
You dirty rat.
There's other things that he could have been. He could have been an advisor. He could have been anything, but no, he chose to have a pity party, throw himself off a cliff, and when that didn't work. He's like, well, screw them. If they're going to be like that, then I'll just betray him. And I think he's a coward. Sorry.
Oh, no. I think those are very respectable opinions in my opinion. What do you think of that? Yeah, I want to blame this guy. I do.
I have a hard time doing it.
Yeah.
I really do, because I feel sorry for the character.
Yeah, he's a sympathetic character.
He's a very sympathetic character, and I think he's a sympathetic character up until the point he betrays the people that he was trying to serve.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, he no longer becomes a sympathetic character. He just becomes a coward.
Yeah. All right. Well,
can you find fault in anything I said there?
Jesus Christ.
Let's
Marcus Bartholomew Radulus.
You're hostile human being, you.
Okay, let's talk about the story as a whole. We'll give our cons and our pros. Let's start with our cons here. Ronnie, do you have anything negative to say about the story as a whole? Anything?
Too much male nudity.
Oh, come on now. You mentioned that before we got into this. Ronnie Adams did say, I remember there being a lot of dong. And I was like, I said, okay. Now, the thing is that really did not, and pardon the phrase, stick out to me as I was reading. And believe it or not, I mean, I kind of I don't want to say I went searching for it, but I was like, okay, if this thing is littered with male nudity, I'm going to notice. But it really didn't seem like, at least the artist, Frank Miller, and his wife, I want to call her Varney. It's not Varney. It's Lynn Varley. They didn't make it a point to make that extremely overt. Like, hey, okay, here's a wiener. And they call it, you know.
You're talking about all of the guys that are just sitting, you know, laying around sleeping.
I didn't see it. It didn't. It honestly, dude, I didn't notice it. It wasn't something that took me out of the book. We'll just put it that way, to where I was like, oh my gosh.
Well, I mean, it didn't take me out of the book because I know they were, you know, a little weird back then. Yeah. But
and I mean, it was. I'm sure it was perfectly fine to go around and just toga and you know, your junk's hanging out.
Yeah, but it also, I did go, oh my gosh, that's a whole lot of.
It's one page. That's a lot of, yeah. Okay, all right. Mark Ralich, cons of the book.
Not enough male nudity.
Oh, I knew it.
You're an odd man.
Actually, no, I wasn't moved one way or the other by the male nudity. Here's what I actually did have a problem with, though, and that is I wasn't really crazy about the artwork.
Okay.
I mean, I think there's a case to be made for they were trying to make it look very artistic and very stylized, but I think a lot of the panels just look shitty.
I wanted to save this question till the end, but since you brought up artwork, I want to go ahead and ask you now, because you've seen the movie. Ronnie, you've seen the movie, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I have not. So I mentioned at the beginning of the show about how this being a very, very good example of source material.
You've read the book, so you've seen the movie.
Yeah, I was going to say, is the movie a very faithful representation of what we have art-wise in the book?
Yeah. The movie's prettier.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah,
Mark?
much.
Mark, you got an opinion on that?
I think Zack Snyder tried to make the movie look like the book. That was kind of the whole point of the style of the movie.
But do you get what I'm saying?
As
prettier, yeah.
I think that what is the movie prettier than the book? Yeah, I would say so.
Okay. Would you feel that what we got was very much a panel-to-panel representation of what we read to film?
I would have to go back and look at the film again.
You're going to be doing that, as a matter of fact.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I don't know.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, if you don't have an answer for it now, then all I ask that you do is just address it when you do the on trial for it.
I'll think about it.
Okay. Yeah. Don't forget to say, okay, hey, I read the book. I know you're going to, you'll probably,
if he can fit in his schedule, he will.
But yeah, just try to remember. It would be great if you would make it a project, Mark Radulich, to have the book by your side while you're watching the movie, just to kind of see if, oh yeah, I can remember that panel. Because that was the big selling point of 300 that I always heard was, holy crap, this is like the book coming to life. Yeah.
What he was trying to, like Mark said, what he was trying to do was he's trying to make it, the darker tones, the kind of shadowy shots that he did and things like that. He was trying to make
it lots
of red, lots of black, not sepia, but just a darker tone. Mm-hmm. And by doing that, he made it look like the book. But in that, I'll be honest, the people in the book were absolutely just hideous to look at. Especially Fill Me Up. What's his name?
He's Fill Me Up from here on out. I mean, we're never going to change that. Just let history know. I'll edit the Wikipedia right now.
But
fealties.
You've got all these people, and it was so much prettier than the book, and I mean, I think he did a good job, but from then on, he kind of tried to make all these other movies like that too.
I actually think he did. Whoever directed Sin City, I thought did a better job of making it look like a comic book
come to life
to film. Yeah. Then I think
Rodriguez.
I don't think Zack Snyder did as good a job as I guess Robert Rodriguez did for Sin City.
Well, Robert Rodriguez and Frank Miller.
Like I said, I don't know. I can see what they were going for with the book, and I can see what Zack Snyder was then in turn going for with the movie. I think the movie stands actually apart from the book. There's definitely some color palette similarities, but there's just a lot of very nondescript sort of elementary artwork in this that I'm not really crazy about.
Okay. Hey, you know what I like to hear? I like to hear Mark Radulich commenting on the art.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice to see you feel comfortable enough to at least say, hey, I didn't like that art. Usually, I
don't know art, but I know what I like.
There you go. And that's what art's all about, man. Honestly, in what I've learned doing this show is that there is a lot of interpretation that is all up to the reader, all up to the person that's enjoying it. The only thing
I agree. I'm always right, and Ronnie isn't.
Oh, jeez. Let's move on.
And, let's.
The only con that I really came up with that I had listed is, the story itself may be somewhat historically inaccurate. Okay, we've already discussed that, and it may be pretty exaggerated.
Somewhat, he says.
May be pretty exaggerated, but in all honesty, that is something I don't really care about. I mean, with it being maybe exaggerated, we've got to tell a story. We just discussed about how King Leonidas is a legend and it's lived on for over 1,000 years. That's insanity. And of course, any person that's going to tell the tale of King Leonidas is going to most likely embellish a little bit, depending upon which side you're on, of course, as well. But that's probably the most negative thing I can say. When it comes to art, I didn't have much of a problem with it. We had, it was violent when it needed to be, and there wasn't really anything that took me out of the story in regards to that. The story itself was pretty simple. So it's not like I had any issue with the plot, the characters. It was fairly easy to tell. The only con I could really come up with is the fact that, okay, maybe this isn't as historically accurate as it could possibly be, which is perfectly fine with me. It's a good tale to tell. Now let's get on to our pros, and I'll start with you, Mark. I mean, what did you like about this book?
I like the story in and of itself. I like the odds are against this small army, but with grit and determination, they face off against impossible odds, and they, before they are ultimately decimated, they get a few wins. It's the triumph of heart over sheer volume and numbers. I like the idea of sacrificing yourself for the greater good, and that and that they believed in something. They believed in what they were doing, even if it defied logic, and and it meant the deaths of 300 good men. So it's a story I think we can all get behind.
I'll just go ahead and I'll read exactly what I put here for my notes, because it's almost going to match up with exactly what Mark just said. I put in here, although it's a relatively simple story, this is a historically relevant tale of how a small army overcame seemingly insurmountable odds. Who cannot get behind that?
You don't schedule too much together.
So yeah, I mean,
who doesn't love a good underdog story?
It's David versus Goliath. Exactly.
You should absolutely get behind the story in the back door.
right at the hot gates.
There's
isn't it awfully nice to have a penis?
It is.
What is happening?
It's
right
awfully
now?
nice to have a dong.
All right, Ronnie. Seriously though, what'd you like about the story, dude?
Everything
Seriously,
that you all
I said seriously. That means I'm not kidding around anymore. Dang it.
Well, I'm trying to answer you. Shut up. No. Oh my gosh, I don't even know what I was going to say now. No, I mean I can echo you all day long, and I mean, but I pretty much summed it up with who doesn't love a good underdog story, and the fact that you can read this and go, it may not all be true, but it is based on some truth. And it's amazing that these guys, or this guy, this man, is that much of a legend, that he's lived on this long in people's memories and in written tales, and people still are interested in telling his story. And so I just, Frank Miller's always a good, he always spins a good tale. So it's just really well written. I could take or leave the art. Doesn't really hurt me one way or the other, but it was a well written, very easy to follow story.
Okay.
And apparently I've bored Mark.
Sorry, I covered my mouth. I apologize. I was listening to you intently. Tell me more.
I think it's important to say real quick, because we kind of left this out in our synopsis. King Leonidas not only had the numbers game against him, he also had somewhat of his own people against him. I don't know if you recall the part where he went to the Oracle, and the Oracle's like, hey, you guys might want to think about not doing this because Xerxes is coming, and it's not going to end well.
Rough.
Yeah, it's not going to end well.
Coming to your back door.
The hot gates.
Jeez.
Guard them hot gates, or they will be open wide.
What's wrong with you all?
Okay.
It's funny.
It is funny.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Source Materials coverage of Frank Miller's
The Hot Gates.
The Hot Gates. Colon, the Hot Gates. The Hot Gates before the colon. Boy, Ronnie, this is getting bad. It's getting out of hand.
Kidding?
This has been our coverage. Our coverage of 300. Let's go ahead. We'll get into plugs here. I don't have anything else unless you guys have any burning desires to talk about this book. I think we've covered everything. We'll start with Mark Radulich. Mark Radulich, what do we have on tap for this week? I'm opening up 300 week, I guess. I don't know if we're going to call it that, but either way, I get the first show for Monday talking about the 300. What else is on tap this week?
I am now going to read to you the entire schedule for the first 5 months of the year.
Yes,
Here
this
we go.
is why I let him go first, because Ronnie Adams has to sit through it.
I'm hanging up.
No.
No.
No. If you are listening to this when it airs on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network, then tomorrow night is the first on trial of the year. We'll be looking at the movie 300, as we've talked about this evening. And the Metal Hammer of Doom does its first release of 2018. Watain, Trident Wolf Eclipse.
Had to think about that one, didn't you?
The following week, Source Material gets behind in the back door of the Hot Gates. The new CW comic show, Black Lightning, by looking at Black Lightning. Black number one.
Wow.
Black Lightning, just in time for Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Black Lightning Volume 1 from the 70s. To see how I sync that all up.
It's a tribute.
A tribute. We have a TV party tonight for the Runaways, which will have just ended Tuesday, January 9th. We'll cover it the following week.
It's getting good.
Metal Hammer.
Is that like a mid-series or season, or is that a season?
No, we're done.
Okay.
Wow.
Metal Hammer of Doom, we'll be looking at the new Corrosion of Conformity. The following week, we'll be looking at the entire Tom King run of The Vision on source material. Jesse, at his insistence, we will be looking at The Orville Season 1 on the 23rd for a TV party tonight. And then Avatar Country, that's a band, not the movie, on the Metal Hammer of Doom on the 24th of January. Jesse and I are going to be taking over the Monday slot for a TV party tonight, Black Mirror Season 4. And just announced this past week, they'll be doing an on trial for The Godfather Part 3. Exactly. That same week, we'll be doing Machine Head Catharsis on the Metal Hammer of Doom. In February, the month of love, we'll be looking at Saga Volume 1 on February 5th. Alexis Hana. No, not you, Alexis. Not my Amazon Echo. Turn off, Alexis. Alexa.
Alexa.
Thank you.
Amazon
Alexis
over here.
No, not you, Alexa. Alexis. And I will be looking at TV parties, and I'm arguing with this machine now. We'll be looking.
Mine started talking because apparently it heard you.
Nice. We'll be looking at Pinky and the Brain Volume 1. I just bought that entire series just in time for the whole thing to appear on Hulu. Lucky me.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, well done. And then on the Metal Hammer of Doom, we're looking at the new Leaves' Eyes, Sign of... What's the name of the album? Sign of the Dragon Head. The following week, just announced here on the Schedule podcast, source material, Red Sun, the Superman is a comic story. On trial will be Training Day, featuring Oscar winner Denzel Washington, because King Kong ain't got nothing on me. And then we'll be looking at the Israeli heavy metal band Orphanland on Metal Hammer of Doom. On President's Day, we'll be doing Who is the Black Panther on source material. We'll be reviewing the new Black Panther movie on the 20th, much to Robert Winfrey's chagrin. And then on the 21st, we'll be reviewing Philip H. Anselmo and the Illegal, their new album. The following week is Pirates Week Part 2. We'll be looking at Aquaman Volume 1, The Trench, because pirates and Aquaman kind of go together. Ronnie, against his better judgment, will be joining me on a TV party tonight for Black Sail Season 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the Metal Hammer of Doom, we just had a little switcheroo. We're going to be looking at Rum Ahoy, The Triumph of Piracy, their debut album. That looks outstanding. In the month of March, celebrating Women's Day, we'll have Alexis Hana on source material. We're going to finally get some vagina on this sausage factory, this sausage party. We're going to look at Mockingbird Volume 2, My Feminist Agenda. We're going to be reviewing the new Death Wish remake with Bruce Willis. And on the Metal Hammer of Doom, we'll be looking at the new Andrew WK. And
yes, another 2-hour song. That's all it is.
And then finally, we'll end the week with an on trial for Death Wish. Should I keep going, Jesse?
No.
Ooh, man, where'd you finish out at?
Mid-March.
Wow.
And everybody listening is going, "What?"
The dude does it. He does it. He sits and he schedules. That is why he is called the schedule. I think we're good right now, Mark. That's plenty. That's plenty of. I
have shows scheduled all the way through the end of the year. I could read the whole calendar if you want.
Not lying, ladies and gentlemen. He is not lying.
He's got him into next year.
Ronnie Adams.
In this podcast, I started scheduling for 2019 because I had a fun idea.
Oh, wow. Ronnie, save us. Do your plugs, man.
I have a show called the Screaming Boy Podcast, and we have a lot of fun on there. We've got a couple of shows coming out. I'm having a little bit of trouble editing one of them. But it'll be out soon, where Josh Calandros, Jesse Starcher, Adam Runyon, and myself talk about our favorite TV shows, past and present. We go through Runaways, the first part of Runaways. We talk about blah blah blah. Oh, my dog just stepped on me. We talk about Superstore. Adam had one that I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was a lot of fun. We got to talk about those and binge-worthy TV shows basically. We just had another one where Jesse and I talked about Star Wars: The Last Jedi, and I got to be passionate about my favorite movies, my favorite, as much as I hate this word, fandom, and why I think people are wrong if they didn't like it. If not everybody, just it's a whole thing. But we've got some shows planned coming up. We just started live streaming again on Twitch. You can find me on Twitch at SBP, all capital, SBP Ronnie. Adam and I got on there and played a little PUBG, which is PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, which can be horribly boring if you don't understand the.
And I was running
the concept, because there's a lot of running in it. You're dropped on an island with nothing, and you have to gather weapons. And it's basically, if you ever seen the movie Battle Royale, you have to fight to the death. Everybody on this island. Sure. It's usually about 100 people.
I didn't know that was a question. I thought you were going to continue. Yes, I recall that movie. I know the concept.
Oh no, that was just me explaining.
Okay.
Battle. Okay. Anyway, and then I'll be live streaming some Call of Duty World War II, some Assassin's Creed Origins, and whatever else I can get my hands on. Really, if I've got here at the house, probably picking up Star Wars Battlefront 2. Well, much to my own chagrin, I don't want to do that because of EA, not because of Star Wars.
Loot boxes,
microtransactions out the yang. So I did the math, and you have to, on top of the money you spent for the game, which I have like a special edition that I put some money on, and I can trade some games towards, which is like $80 or something like something stupid. You'd have to spend $1,500 extra to unlock everything.
Jeez!
And if you do it the old-fashioned way and just grind your way through the game, you have to grind for 40 hours to unlock.
Oh, that's insanity! One
character. So EA, we'll probably do a show about it after I play it. But EA has gotten a lot of flack over that. So we got some good stuff coming up. Like I said, we started streaming again. You can find us on social media on Facebook. Just look up Screaming Boy Podcast. On Instagram, it's Screaming Boy Podcast. On Twitter, it's Screaming Boy PR. I'm going to a couple more cons this year. Against my better judgment, I bought a ticket to the North Carolina Comic Con again, but this time it's in Raleigh. And with the tickets, I do get to meet Kevin Eastman of Eastman and Laird.
Oh, nice! And
I get to say hi or whatever. Spend a few seconds with him, and he's going to sign something for me.
I like the turtles.
I like turtles. And then he'll probably say, "Please escort this man away from me." And then I'm actually going to Raleigh SuperCon, where some of the guests are Dave Bautista. Of wrestling and Guardians of the Galaxy fame. Sean Gunn, who is actually the brother of the Guardians of the Galaxy director James Gunn, and he himself physically played Rocket on screen in the green suit. And he also has been in the Belko Experiment, which is a really good movie, and a few others. And Amy Jo Johnson, which was the original Pink Ranger, and William Shatner.
Very cool.
So you'll be seeing some coverage on that as well. Other than that, if you like us, go on Facebook and tell us, and be tuning in, because here in the next couple of days we'll be having a content drop. So be looking forward to that. And I think that's it for me.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as always, go give the Radulich in Broadcasting Network Facebook page a like to stay up on top of all the great podcasts that we have to offer. You can find us on our home, blogtalkradio.com. Just search Radulich, and you can find all the great shows that we have to offer. Like I said, source material, over 140 some episodes. So there's got to be something on there that you'd like to maybe check out. Maybe you haven't read something and you'd like to hear us gentlemen take you through a very civilized conversation about the book, as you've so witnessed tonight happen. Them hot gates. Let me just go ahead and I'll give you a quick rundown of what showed up in December. Maybe there's something you may like. We talked about Punisher, Welcome Home Frank. We talked about the Princess Leia series.
We talked about Manucci.
Yes, we did.
Manucci got the ill communication. Manucci got the ill communication.
Oh, that was a great episode.
See how you made that.
We had Princess Leia, where we discussed her adventures after Star Wars: A New Hope. Also, on Christmas Day, I had the opportunity to talk with.
Hey, Jesse.
Yeah.
Who was her second in command on that show? Who was like the
Ivan? Press the hyperspace button. We got to get out of here. So anyway, yes, you can hear all about Yvonne there in the Princess Leia.
Yvonne.
Then we, on Christmas Day, Pat Mullen and our good buddy from, I don't know if the Casual Heroes are coming back ever. I have no idea. All of a sudden, their Facebook just lit up today, and I think they're teasing us. But Gavin Napier came on, and we talked about what did we talk about? We talked about hold on, his name. I want
Lobos.
I was going to call him Lobo.
Paramilitary.
Thank you.
Christmas special.
Lobo's Paramilitary Christmas Special, which was a great comic book and a great film.
I wasn't even on the show, and I know it.
You can talk about nothing.
Great. It was a great comic book, great film. And we also talked about we had a list that we went through of DC holiday specials, and there was some very interesting material out there from this list. So check that out as well. I think that's about it. December was a fun month. We had a great time. Look forward to 2018. I do want to give a special shout out to our he's a co-host. I think you guys are considered co-hosts. Anybody who comes on here as part of this this podcast is considered a co-host, and that is our good buddy Josh Calandros. I think for myself, Ronnie Adams, and Mark Radlich, we want to give you special thanks for let's just say helping us out and increasing our love of comics by giving us the opportunity to get some more comic books in our life. So Josh Calandros, thank you very much, sir, from the Source Material Podcast and our good buddies here. And we look forward to, again, bringing new content to you guys next year. Well, not next year. That's Mark Radlich's territory. He's getting ready to schedule that. Don't worry. I'm talking about 2018. It's 2018, ladies and gentlemen. That's Ronnie Adams. That's Mark Radlich. I'm Jesse Starcher. Ladies and gentlemen, have a great evening.
Did you momentarily forget who you were?
What's my name? The Hot Gates. Isn't it awfully nice to have a penis?
In the show! In the show, Jesse! In the show!